Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Spencer Penrod. I'm a world builder who makes stories for games and D&D campaigns, things like that. Today we're back into MILGRAM, looking at Futa, his audio drama and music video. Last time we looked at, I believe her name was Yuno, the girl. We came to the conclusion that she was probably here because she had an abortion that was maybe a miscarriage, but definitely at least an abortion. Decided she wasn't guilty. More importantly, we had some hints about the world, just more hints that things aren't as they seem. I think the biggest revelation I had was that these interrogations aren't meant to find answers. They're not meant even to play the mind games that we hinted at with Haruka. But they're meant to put the prisoners in a particular state of mind to influence the kinds of memories we extract or how they're presented to us. If I had to guess what we're going to see here, Futa, I believe, was the most abrasive of the people. He was very much offended by us being extrajudicial, very demanding of his rights. So I think he's going to be pretty antagonistic towards us, and we're going to spend the interview trying to make him feel understood rather than just arguing with him or directly confronting him. Given S's personality, I imagine we're going to come across abrasively as we do that, but I think the end result is going to leave Futa in a more agreeable place. And then we'll see from his music video what his sin is, and see if we can get any information about that. Last note is that last episode we saw the word crime used for the first time, I believe. Most of the time it's sin, and even most of that episode it was sin. But they did use crime once, and I'm not sure yet if that was kind of a translational quirk that was an error or if it was meant to be significant. So yeah, I want to keep an eye out for that. In this episode, see if we get any more crime mentions or whether it sticks with this theme of sin and this almost religious tone that it's been presenting. With that, let's go ahead and jump on in and see what we have with Futa here. Right away, there has been some debate about whether these doors or these cells have doors or not. That debate is all with me, to be clear. I'm going back and forth on it. This is hinting that they are bars because if they're rattling, that means he is grabbing onto the bars and shaking it instead of pounding on a door. So I think that the view we saw in S's music video was probably trustworthy as for how the cells are laid out. I don't trust it entirely because there's some details that just didn't make sense, like everyone's height. But I think we can assume that there's no privacy. They just have cells and no real doors.
ずいぶんな荒れようじゃないか。囚人番号3番、フータ。
誰のせいだと思ってんだ、クソガキが。
僕は看守だ。言葉遣いには気をつけろ。
なめんじゃねえぞ。こんなところに連れてきて偉そうにしやがって。
Although now I'm thinking I'm wrong. Because it sounds like he's already in the interrogation room. I thought we were going to be getting him from his cell and bringing him there. But if he's already rattling things, I wonder if he's chained up in the interrogation room rather than just kind of freely sitting in there like I had kind of expected before. We are pretty sure that it doesn't have bars because was able to hide from us, which makes it sound like a solid wall and a solid door, which wouldn't really be something you're rattling against. So I'm thinking he's chained up or something similar to kind of restrain him, keep him trapped in that room.
どうした？震えているぞ。
やってやる。やってやるよ。
Okay, so we have heard that we can't be harmed by the prisoners. This seems to be the first proof of that. Interesting that it's described as mystical. There's some kind of invisible wall that comes here. So far, we have seen evidence that this is very technologically superior to us, but this is making it feel kind of like magic rather than just sci-fi technology. It could obviously still be both because, sci-fi tech is basically just magic with a different coat of paint on it. But the presentation here is definitely more mystical, more magical than it is scientific or technological.
ほう、理屈はわからないが、ジャッカロープが言っていたのはこれか。囚人から看守への攻撃はできない。
なんだっつんだよ。現実じゃねえのか、ここは。
無害とはいえ。
So it's weird for him to say, isn't this meant to be real life? Because, I think the intention of that phrase might be for him to say, this doesn't make sense with my understanding of what life is like. And so how is this happening? But the phrasing of it really makes me think that either that this place was sold to him or to the prisoners as being real life as opposed to something else. Maybe contrasting with where they were living before or how they were living before. Or they've otherwise had some experiences that don't line up with the real world. And they are basically contrasting this prison environment with whatever those experiences are. With no one else having mentioned that so far, though, it makes me think that maybe Futa here is someone who experiences delusions, maybe, and he has trouble differentiating those delusions from real life, and he thought he was pretty grounded, but now reality isn't working the way that he thought it should, and it's kind of unmooring him a bit. I think that's my best theory right now. It's pretty flaky still because we don't know much about him. But I want to keep an eye out and see if there's anything else hinting that he has some kind of delusional experience with reality.
感心しないな。看守への攻撃行動、とても悪印象だ。
こんなふざけた場所へ閉じ込めたやつが何言ってやがる。立派な正当防衛だ。何笑ってやがる。
いや、すまない。こっちの話だ。
何なんだよ、てめえ。
まあ一旦座れ、フータ。尋問を始める。どうした？腰が抜けて立てないか？
バカにすんじゃねえ。そもそも俺は自分が囚人だなんて認めてねえ。こんなわけわかんねえ場所に連れてくるなんて人権侵害だ。
自分を囚人だと認めていないか。
当たり前だ。 無実の人間を拘束して監禁するなんざてめえの方がよっ
So he's the first guy to actually insist that he's innocent. Haruka said he was guilty, though I don't quite believe him. He's a little too down on himself. I don't trust him. Yuno didn't seem to care whether she was guilty or not, and seemed to admit to doing, in her words, something that might be considered murder. Whereas Futa is the first one who's like, I am actually innocent. His personality is pretty abrasive and contrarian, so it would make sense for him to say that even if he knew he was guilty. But it's interesting that it's taken us 3 prisoners to find someone who insists on innocence rather than just accepting the charges as they appear. Oh, wait, actually, he says that I didn't even read this, but it looks like he is aware that everyone else is weirdly accepting of this and their situation. I kind of I wonder what's up with him, because everyone else is so complacent. He's the only one who doesn't seem to like where he's at, doesn't accept his situation. I wonder what makes him so different. If my theory about him being kind of delusional is right, I wonder if it's just that he has so much experience with trying to differentiate reality from those delusions that he's not accepting of anything that takes his life away from what he understands it to be, whereas everyone else has their own problems that lead them to being more accepting. But his worldview is so based on rejecting, like, if he is trying to manage delusions, he would have to be so focused on rejecting his perception of reality in order to get back to what normal reality is, that it makes sense to me that he wouldn't be the type to just go along with drastic changes in his situation.
ぽど犯罪者じゃねえか。他の奴らはなんでか素直に受け入れてやがるが、俺はごまかされねえぞ。
それはおかしいな。お前らは全員人殺しだと聞いている。
知らねえ。誰が言ってんだそんなこと。
思い当たる節もないと。
He says that's none of my business. Is that an error in the translation? Or, like, it seems like he would be saying that's none of your business. Yeah, I don't know how much to read into this, because it's really strange phrasing if this is intended. If it's not, then obviously there's no reason to give it thought. But it's almost like he, with this phrasing, sounds like he doesn't care what he's done. Like he doesn't even want to know.
思い当たる節もないと。
当たり前だ。名誉毀損だろそれ。
しかし、人殺しという言葉が出た瞬間に腕を組み出したな。これ以上踏み込んでほしくないか。
は？
囚人ではないと僕に殴りかかるほどだ。日本の法律を犯していないという自信があるんだろう。
そう言ってんじゃねえか。
しかし人殺しには反応した。立件はできない。
What the heck? So this is really weird. This is, again, showing that we have more information, well, S has more information than we do as the audience. That now we're saying that the people here are people that can't have a case built against them. So it wasn't a criminal offense. It's it's not even that it was a criminal offense that was executed so flawlessly that um that it can't be tracked down. It just isn't a criminal offense. We have speculated before that the intentional avoidance of using crime was because sin is what they're after rather than crime. But this is the first confirmation we're getting that none of these people are criminals. It's not that we're uninterested in what crimes they committed. It's that they haven't committed crimes. And so what they have done is some kind of murder that is legal. We saw that in Yuno's case, where I don't know Japan's laws on abortion, but in a lot of places at least, abortion is legal, but also still considered murder by a lot of people. And I think that's kind of the key to understanding the rest of these cases, is that these people did something that would be considered murder, sort of, if you squint, if you rephrase the context. But it's not like they're actually criminally ending the life of another person. That reframes Haruka's music video a lot for me, because the best guess we could make there was that he killed a dog and maybe a girl and maybe a woman. But that would definitely be criminal. Even if it was just the dog, that would be criminal. So I don't think that's what it was. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in his video, but one of the vibes I got was that he was wanting to kill himself, kind of, not in like a suicidal way, but in a way of destroying who he was as a person to become someone else. That is what I think his sin is that he is kind of suppressing his self or killing his inner self to put on a front as someone else. Whereas, we know her sin was abortion, where she's not a criminal killer here, but she did something that is tangential to murder, at least, or at least frameable as murder if you present the facts in a certain way. So if we assume that everyone is like that, we're thinking of murder not as a crime or as a concrete concept, but as something symbolic. The kind of killing that is less about violence and more about symbolism. So this is maybe the most interesting line of dialogue we've seen so far. It's confirming a lot of what we've seen, what we've theorized, but going a lot further than what we were thinking at the same time.
犯罪ではない。ただ、人は殺した。目をそらしたな。
バカバカしい。的外れだぜ。
話し始める前に唇を舐めたな。緊張している証拠だ。嘘をつき慣れていないのか。
S is showing a lot of what's the word? A lot of attention to detail, I suppose. A lot of analysis of small movements and reactions and body language. We haven't seen that before, but we have seen S presented as pretty intelligent and very capable. I feel like what we're seeing here isn't necessarily S demonstrating their ability to read Futa or see through his lies. I think it goes back to how S wants to make people feel seen in these interrogations. And right now, they're demonstrating that Futa can't hide behind lies. He can't avoid the truth that we're going to see through whatever he does. We're going to see who he is and what he's saying. No matter how he puts things into words, we're going to see the truth. And I think it's about making him feel seen like that, rather than making him feel vulnerable or feel like we have the upper hand even.
いい加減にしろってめ
頭に血が上ると暴力が無意味だということまで忘れてしまうのか。
汚ねえぞてめえ。
ちなみに教えといてやろう。仕草や反応で心理が読めるなんてことはありえない。それらしい話に簡単に騙されないようにな。
こいつ。
残念ながらお前の言う人権侵害も監禁も名誉毀損もミルグラムでは全く問題にならない。ここはそういった断りの外にある。
そんなこと認められっか。
So once again, we're seeing that MILGRAM exists outside the scope of the law. We've had that confirmed to us pretty directly before. So it's not surprising, but it does raise the question once again, what kind of organization is this? Especially with us having confirmed that these people aren't criminals. We're calling them murderers, but they aren't murderers in a legal sense. It's not even that a case can't be found, that evidence can't be found. It's that they literally just aren't murderers. With all of the religious language, with how I've been speculating that MILGRAM is trying to influence S into a certain mindset or kind of lead them into some kind of judgment, judgment persona, I guess. It really makes me think that we're almost like some sort of religious extremist group that is capturing and executing people who go against our dogma. I don't know how much support there is for that. I feel like there's something more going on than just that, at least. But all of the religious language, all of the posturing of us as being above and capable of judging these prisoners, the separation from law, the almost positioning us as above the law, it really feels like something like an extremist religious group would do, or a cult or something like that. So I wonder if we'll learn more about that as we continue. Right now, that's my best guess, though.
自分の立場をわきまえろ。何を言おうと、お前は人殺しの囚人だ。決して逃げられない。お前に判決が下るまではな。
くだらねえ。俺は殺してねえ。殺してねえんだ。殺してねえ。殺してねえよな。
Futa.
This is making me think that, like, once again, he's having trouble distinguishing what reality is. He's trying to convince himself he hasn't killed anyone, but he sounds unsure of it. Like, there's something triggering that thought in him, and he can't tell whether it happened in reality or not. And he's seeking external confirmation of his actions here. I'm not positive that he lives in delusions or anything like that, but I feel like we're getting a lot of hints that that might be the case.
なんだよ。
先に述べたミルグラムの性質上、お前の人殺しも今の時点では問題にはならない。僕はそのことでお前を責める気もない。一旦落ち着くといい。
してねっつうの。
どちらでもいいさ。いずれミルグラムの力でわかる問題だ。お前の心象を覗くことになるからな。
プライバシーの侵害だろ。ふざけんなよ。
お前にとっては好都合だろ。本当に人を殺していないんだったらそれを証明できるんだ。
そうだけどよ。
安心しろ。ミルグラムはまあ僕もかな。別にお前の敵じゃない。たとえ法律を犯していても人を殺していてもミルグラムで許すと判断されれば許される。ある意味
It's weird that now we're saying even if you committed a crime. Wait, that was the phrasing, right? Or what did he say? Broke the law. Come on, go back. Yeah, violated the law, not a crime. Still avoiding the crime language. But even if you violated the law, even if you killed someone, if the judgment MILGRAM hands down states that you're forgiven, then you're forgiven. So we just said, though, that they're not criminal, that this has nothing to do with the law. So I think we're not stating, like, I think this isn't a statement that they did break the law and it doesn't matter because our forgiveness is absolute. I think it's a hypothetical that we know they're not criminals, but even if they were, it doesn't matter because all we care about here is whether MILGRAM forgives you. And once again, this is like the type of language I would expect someone to use about a god, where like something I've heard a lot with religion is that the laws of man don't matter as much as the laws of God. And that if you get forgiveness from God for your sins, then it doesn't really matter whether the state considers you innocent or guilty. Like your fate has already been determined by a higher power, and that's all that matters in the end. And that sounds really, really similar to how MILGRAM is being positioned here, where we're dealing with forgiveness, we're dealing with guilt. It doesn't matter whether you're a criminal, it doesn't matter whether you have killed someone, it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't even matter that you're like a metaphorical killer here. We are the only source of judgment that matters. And that just like screams religion to me, or something posturing itself like religion. So yeah, it's a lot more evidence towards that religious extremism or cultish behavior that we've seen hinted at so far, I think.
許すと判断されれば許される。ある意味フラットだろ。まあお前の味方というわけでもないけどな。落ち着いたようだな。
現状どうしようもねえからな。出口は見当たらねえし、力ずくでも通用しねえと来たらよ。おいやつ、
言葉遣いに気をつけろと言ったはずだが。
うるせえ、どうせ俺より年下だろ。
やれやれ、野蛮人め。
ここは何なんだよ。何の目的で俺たちを捕らえてんだ。
答えるつもりはない。お前たちはただ監獄で生活をしていればいい。
おい、囚人だからってなめんなよ。刑務所の中の人権侵害とか今時問題になってんの知らねえのかよ。
なんだ、囚人だということは認めたのか。
言葉のあやだバカ。
こちらからの質問をするぞ。監獄内の生活はどうだ。
どうもこうもねえよ。スマホも PC もねえし、現代人からネットワークを奪うなんてどうかしてんじゃねえのか。
他の囚人との関係性はどうだ。
別に。でも変な奴らだよ。なんでか落ち着いてる奴も多い。こんな状況だっつうのに。特に気に食わねえのが指導と和井のおっさんコンビだな。この緊急事態だっつうのに 年長者のくせにのんきにしやがって。頼りねえたらありゃしねえ。
そうか。
ああ、はるかもみことも全然だけどな。俺が引っ張っていかなきゃなんねえ。
ふん。
そもそも女は頼りにしてねえしな。代表してガツンと言ってやるよっつって。
As everyone's representative, I wonder if that's official or if no one else cares and he's just declared himself that. That's my guess. It's also weird for him to mention that a few of them weren't useful on their own, that they needed guiding. Like, what sort of guidance could he be giving them? Why would it even matter? Haruka was one of those people, right? Yeah, Haruka. I don't remember who Makoto was. They're completely useless by themselves, and he really has to take the lead with them. Haruka didn't really act like he was being guided in his interrogation, but it's possible he was. I still kind of think he was faking most of that interview, but maybe I'm wrong with that. So that's why I'm here as of now, to give us a good scolding. He says that, though, as if he had any choice in the matter, which I'm presuming he didn't, because they're prisoners and we're kind of in control of their fate. So I think he's just trying to give himself some measure of control over the situation when he really doesn't have any say in it.
今回も俺が来てるわけよ。
ああ、それであんなに興奮してたのか。しかし、代表の割にやけに震えていたな。
いや、それはユノのやつが尋問室で。
So that's like the third or fourth time, I think, that we've mentioned that he was trembling or scared or something like that. So I feel like it's really trying to hammer home that his attitude here is a front and that he's actually just terrified of his situation. He says he's trembling in excitement because there was a lot of violence. But, like, obviously that's not true. He was just scared. So I wonder if he's scared of the violence or if he's just scared in general. It feels like it's supposed to be really notable. If my theory about him being delusional is right, I feel like he's probably trembling because his grasp on reality is crumbling. He's afraid because he's having trouble distinguishing reality from delusions at the moment. But the longer we get, I feel like the less support we really have towards that. So maybe I'm just barking up the wrong tree here. I still want to keep an eye out for that, but I don't want to get so stuck on that path that I'm too biased to see other evidence.
とんでもねえ暴力を受けたって言ってたからよ。武者震いってやつだよ。
ユノ、律儀にやってくれたんだな。
なんか言ったかよ。
特に何も。しかし、よく喋るようになったじゃないか。
は？お前が質問してきたんだろうが。
最初はよっぽど怯えていたのだろうな。先制攻撃することでそれをごまかす。そうして自分を守ってきたのだな。
はあ、喧嘩売ってんのかよ。
僕がお前を判断するために必要な評価だ。気を悪くするな。
おいおいおいおい、偉そうに人を評価してんじゃねえぞ。違法行為だらけのやつがよ。ここを出たら絶対に訴えてやっからな。お前もただで済むと思うなよ。俺は悪いやつは許さねえ。このミルグラムとかいう場所も絶対に潰してやる。
僕が悪いやつか。その発想はなかった。ではフータ、お前は正義か。
当たり前だろ。悪をぶっ潰すのが正義だ。
正義が人を殺したのか。
殺し してね
え。では思考実験だ。どう思う？正義のための殺しは許されるか？
許される。許されるに決まってる。
興味があるな。果たして正義は許されるのか？善悪、罪、そこ。
This is a really weird thread for the dialogue to follow, because we are presumably executing these people if we deem them guilty. That's what it sounds like, especially with the Jackalope. He keeps telling us to kill them all. We're also kind of positioning ourselves as justice, as the only opinion that matters, the only people who have the right to judge and forgive. So we're going on this conversational thread just to kind of poke at Futa a bit, I think. But it's still a weird one, because if we don't believe that killing for the sake of justice is justified, then what are we even doing? Do we just not care if we're evil? We said just recently that we had never considered that we might be bad guys. So I feel like we can't associate sin with the action of executing these prisoners or imprisoning them outside of the law. We are very much of the ends justify the means sort of mindset from what we've seen. But here we are presenting it as though good and evil, sin. I wonder if those two ideas have a casual relationship, as though they are changeable things, and we seem to be looking down on that idea. I feel like the entirety of this thread isn't meant to speak towards our beliefs, or if it is, it's meant to hide our beliefs in this kind of questioning, doubting format, because everything we're talking about seems like it's how we view the world, and we are questioning Futa maybe because we're just curious if he shares the same mindset as us, but really it seems like we're trying to poke holes in the way that he views the world. Yeah, what a strange digression.
ここに因果関係はあるのか？
おい、何ブツブツ言ってやがる。
Oh, we weren't even talking directly to him. We were mumbling to ourselves. So I wonder if we were questioning our mindset because of what Futa believes. And that the reason it sounded so strange is because we were questioning our own assumptions. We weren't even trying to poke holes in him, which I thought would be a little strange if the purpose of these interrogations is to make the prisoners feel seen. It'd be weird to make them feel uncertain right at the end. But if we're just talking to ourselves, that makes a lot more sense and makes it feel like maybe as time passes, we're getting a little more independent from the Jackalope and able to think on our own a little more.
なんだ、何が起きてやがる。
時間か。見せてもらうよ。お前の正義。
歌を抽出するってやつか。好きにしやがれ。
そうさせてもらおう。何か言い残したことはあるか？
言い残したことね。おいやつ。
なんだ？
なんで笑ってやがった？最初の方、こっちの話だとか言ってはぐらかしてただろ。ああいうのもやもやして気持ち悪いんだよ。
ああ。あまりに囚人らしい囚人だったもので、正直少し嬉しくなった。 おかげでいつもより張り切っていじめてしまったかもしれないな。
はあ？
楽しかったよ。ありがとう。囚人番号3番フータ。さあお前の罪を歌え。
All right, that was a really interesting interview. I feel like there were a lot of implications for how we operate at MILGRAM, how we view the world, things like that. We're getting into the music video now. Once again, these are usually too symbolic for me to take much meaning from. So I might watch through the majority of this in silence. I'll make comments where I can. And then at the end, I will try to figure out what their sin was, what everything was on about, and pass judgment, even though I still believe that's a bit of a trap meant to kind of brainwash us or influence their mindset. So yeah, let's see what we've got. So far it's seeming like Futa here is someone who's kind of a loner in person and gets the majority of his social interaction online. I wish that I could read what all of those messages were about. I feel like that would be really interesting. But without being able to do that, we can just assume that he spends a lot of time talking with people, interacting with people, or at least following what people say online. And it also looks like a lot of his attitude for justice was shaped by gaming, that he presumably has most of his friends within some kind of MMO, and he enjoys the feeling of justice he gets accomplishing things in that game. So we're kind of setting him up as someone who has few real-life relationships. But based on how he was kind of looking at those other people in the arcade, it seems like he's not scorning real-life relationships. He's just a little awkward in real life. I'm also starting to think that maybe what I was thinking were delusions were less like psychotic delusions and more like he spends a lot of time fantasizing about video games, this MMO he plays, a lot of time immersed in it. And so it's not that he can't tell them apart, but he does kind of blend the boundaries a bit because all of his friends are online in this game. And so he thinks not that it's reality, but it does feel real to him to a certain degree because that's where his grounding connections are. And his surprise wasn't because he can't like literally tell the difference between a game and reality, but because it feels more like his experience in the game than his experience in real life. And that is upsetting the balance that he's found between them so far. So we're seeing, it looks like he took a picture of this teacher harassing, I'm assuming it was one teacher harassing another teacher, maybe a student, because he saw them and then left, but he didn't want to just leave it alone because he's so interested in justice. I really wish I could read these. I feel like that would make things a lot more clear. But I wonder if his sin, his killing someone, is killing their career. Maybe it even drove them to suicide, and that's why he is so unsure about whether he actually killed someone. But right now I'm thinking that he probably tried to execute justice in the way he was able to by sharing something online, and it had consequences that he didn't expect. And the killing was less about someone ending up dead at his hands and more about ending a career path or a social life or something like that. This is making me feel like he does blur the lines between video games and reality a bit. Did it show what he was looking at? Kind of like we see him as himself, not as his video game persona. And it looks like he's frightened. And the way that he copes with that is by adopting this mindset of the game. Because we see the game UI, but it's all distorted and blurry, like it's not really there. So I wonder if he tries to frame challenges in the real world as though they were challenges in his game in order to cope with them more. What did that say? Warning, congratulations, you brought justice to the world. Why is that warning, congratulations? Yeah, so it looks like he faced something here that he couldn't comprehend, he couldn't deal with. So he started viewing it like the game. He started overlaying the game onto reality to better cope with the situation. And he got really into his role of bringing justice to something. I wonder if we get a better shot of that. Not one that's meaningful. But then he realizes that wasn't the game. This was real life, and there are actual consequences. And those consequences were more than he expected. And he doesn't know how to deal with that. Because it's not a game. There are actual meaningful things that happen as the result of his actions. And he let those lines blur too much and wasn't prepared for the result. I think that, I don't know, like he's walking here until he gets to this like spooky castle. But this is the moment that I feel like matters. He seems to be Pazuzu's soccer. I wonder... when we see these other messages, we don't see that name. Oh, we do see it a little bit here. So he does have conversations with people online. I think we're seeing... yeah, he's smiling here. This isn't his name. This is someone else. I think what happened is he saw someone sharing... I can't tell what this is. It looks like a tanning bed almost. It seems like he saw someone do something similar, maybe to bring justice to something, and he saw that people really liked it. And he thought, that's a great idea. Let's do it myself. And so when he finds this going on, someone clearly uncomfortable, he takes a picture, he shares it, and he smiles and he's like, ah, yes, I have done justice. And people seem to really respond to it, share it, react to it. But I think what happens is he gets to a point where he realizes... in fact, I wonder if this is meant to be school. Because we saw that he goes to a university. And I wonder if this is him going back after having shared it out that first time and realizing that it's really scary. And then he confronts that teacher, or realizes that his post has caused it. The wiping blood here makes me think that these are him, or this is him realizing the consequence of what he's done, and that he had kind of gotten roped up into the social media hype around what he had done and not realized that it was affecting real people that he knew, and now he's kind of terrified of it. So my read ultimately, I guess, is that he kind of went cancel culture on this teacher, and either saw them get fired because of it and ended their social life, or saw them commit suicide. I feel like nothing really hints towards that, though. it could be that he confronted and beat up and killed them. But I feel like that doesn't fit with the metaphorical representation of murder that S says that all of these prisoners are having. So I don't think that that's it. I think it's the metaphorical ending of that man's social life or professional life or something like that. And I think he just felt really guilty for that because he didn't understand that the real world had consequences, because he's used to everything ending perfectly in his video games, and he doesn't understand how justice in the real world looks like. So yeah, with that being said, I would vote innocent on him if I had to vote. I still don't want to vote. I don't want to participate in what S is doing. But if I had to vote, I'd say innocent, because he seems to have done this with the intent to protect someone. And honestly, if like someone who's harassing women at work gets fired, that doesn't seem like the end of the world. But maybe I'm misreading it and maybe something else is going on. That's just my best guess. With that being said, thank you for sticking around, for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are interested in seeing more. If you are, subscribe. If you don't want to wait for the rest of the videos, you can check out my Patreon that should be newly launched by the time this one comes out. And you can check out the whole backlog there, so you can get videos ahead of when they post on YouTube. Yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you.